Hi, my name is Alex and welcome to the Crochet Circle.
In today's video, I want to show you how to crochet a letter Q. As you perhaps know from before, I'm just gonna sketch it out first so you will see how it's gonna be done. So a letter Q is like a letter O with these two parts. So I'm gonna start here at the bottom and I'm gonna do the increases until up to here. So this is actually gonna be part 1 and with this tooth. So part 1 is start at the bottom with the inner tooth, then part 2 will be this on the right side. Part 3 will actually be on the left side, joining it with part 2 and then decreases on the top, and part 4 will be this little tooth here on the bottom. That's the plan. I'm gonna leave it up here in the corner just for you to see. Don't forget there is a written pattern in the description below with a link to my webpage where you can find everything. For this letter Q I'm using a 3.5mm crochet hook and some more scrap yarn that I had. So let's just begin. I hope there aren't any major knots in this yarn. I'm just gonna put the needle and the scissors a bit on the side. So let's start. I'm gonna begin with chain of 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now the first 3 rows are actually increases on the right side and on the left side. So in the beginning I'm gonna do an increase. That means I'm gonna do 2 single crochets in the same stitch, and at the end, in the last stitch, I'm gonna do 2 single crochets in the same stitch. Now chain 1 to go up into the next row, and in the second stitch from the hook I'm gonna do 2 single crochets. So that's 1, 2. Now I'm gonna do single crochets till the end. Altogether at the end of row 1 I'm gonna have 14 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and the last stitch is an increase, so that means 13, 14, 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So that's 1 and 2. Now I'm gonna do chain 1 just to go up into the next row, and the next row is again an increase stitch in the beginning, then single crochets and an increase at the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 are gonna be an increase stitches. So that just means 2 single crochets in the same stitch, chain 1 to go up into the next row, an increase, single crochets in between, and then I'm gonna come to the first, a bit of a tricky part where I'm gonna actually be doing some chains to extend the bottom part for the bottom tooth, if I can call it like that. I know sometimes I have strange names for all the letter parts, but letters do have tooth and heads and tails and legs and arms and bellies and whatever I can come up with. So the last stitch is an increase. And what I have to do now, I have to do 6 chains because I'm here. I have to extend this part here. So I'm gonna do 6 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna do chain 1, and in the second loop from the hook I'm gonna start with single crochets till the last stitch where it's gonna be an increase. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6 in the 6 chains that I've made in the previous row. And now single crochets till the end, and the last stitch is gonna be an increase where I'm gonna be doing 2 single crochets in the same stitch. And an increase in the last stitch. As you can see, this is the correct side of the letter Q. What I have to do is on this side, for the next 2 rows I have to increase, and on this side I have to decrease. So in the next row it's gonna be first an increase and then a decrease. And then in the next one it's gonna be first a decrease and then an increase. So that's the next 2 rows that I have to do. Now I'm here at the last 2 stitches. Through the first stitch I'm gonna go just the front loop, and through the second stitch I'm gonna go through both loops. And I'm definitely at the stage where I have to cut my nails, because, well, I have a feeling I'm gonna break them. Okay, so that's a decrease. I'm gonna do chain 1 up to go up into the next row, and the first stitch is a decrease, and then single crochets till the last stitch where there's gonna be an increase. Well, this letter Q, I forgot about it, then I was procrastinating just a little bit, then I was reminded that I still didn't do it, and now I'm finally making it. I do apologize if that's the letter you were waiting for, but I had other priorities at the moment, so, and it did feel good to procrastinate just a little bit. So that's this row done. Now the next row is gonna be just single crochets from start to finish. Now I'm gonna be in this part where I'm gonna slowly begin with the upper tooth. So I did a chain 1 to go up into the next row. Now the first stitch is gonna be an increase, 7 single crochets, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and a decrease. From the first stitch I only took the front loop, from the second stitch I went through both loops. Now the next row is an increase at the end and at the beginning, so 2 single crochets in the same stitch, single crochets all the way till the end, and an increase again at the end. And now I begin with a single crochets until the last stitch. In the last stitch it's gonna be an increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and the last stitch is an increase. Now that's the tooth part. Now I have to do an increase in the beginning, 2 single crochets, and a decrease. Chain 1 to go up into the next row. Now I have to do, let me just double check. I have to do a decrease and 3 single crochets, so that's 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, and this is end of part 1. I know it's a bit odd shape, but I'm gonna now continue with part 2 up here, and then the letter Q will slowly start to get its shape. So I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches, and I do have 8 stitches here. So I'm gonna go into the first one, slip stitch, chain 1, and a single crochet. What I'm also gonna do is I'm gonna lay the yarn, the starting tail, over the previous row and just work it in, so at the end I won't have to worry about sewing it in because it's already gonna be hidden in. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. So that's 8 single crochets, and I need 11 rows of just 8 single crochets. 1 done and 10 to go. Now that's 2. Three, 1 2 3 4 5. 6, 7, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. So in the 8th row I still have 8 single crochets. Now that's row number 9 almost done. And I need 2 more rows. So that's row number 10. And row number 11. Now I need just 1 more row where I'm gonna start with an increase stitch, single crochets, 5 of them. So that's 1 2 3 4 5, and a decrease stitch. Chain 1, and I can cut the yarn because part 2 is done. Yep, now I'm gonna be going up to part number 3. So I have to start with in the 10th stitch from the end. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, and I have to start with a decrease. Slip stitch, a chain 1, now a decrease. That means through the front loop of the first stitch, through the both loops of the next stitch, and just pull it through, and 8 more single crochets. So that's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. Now the next row is an increase, 6 single crochets and a decrease. 1 2 3 4 5 6 and a decrease. And the next row is a decrease and 7 single crochets. 1 2 3 4 5 6 and 7. Now I'm on a count of 8 single crochets, so I need 11 rows of 8 single crochets. So that's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. 2 rows done. So that's 3 done. Four done. Five. Six. That's 7. 8. 9. 2 more rows. last row. Now I'm gonna count if I really have 8 still. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Perfect. So this looks now like this. What I have to do is connect part 3 with part 2. That's gonna be really easy. Oh, I'm not there yet. I still need to do a bit of a curve here. So the next row is gonna be increases in the beginning and at the end. I was just jumping ahead a bit, so I do apologize for that. I still need to do a few more rows. So the last one is actually a decrease, an increase in the beginning and a decrease at the end. Now the next one is gonna be 7 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. An increase, that means 2 single crochets in the same stitch. Now comes the part where I'm gonna connect them, so it's gonna be 8 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now I have to connect it with the other part. And here the first stitch is gonna be an increase. So that's 1, 2, and 7 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now that I have the 2 parts connected, I need to do 7 rows of decreases on the left and on the right side. So the first stitch is a decrease. Now I have to do 8 single crochets in the 8 chains. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And now I need to do 7 single crochets and a decrease. And a decrease. Now I need 6 more rows like this. Chain 1 up to go into the next row, a decrease, single crochets till the end of the row, and then another decrease. chain 1 to go up into the next row and a decrease. Now single crochets and a decrease at the end. And a decrease at the end. Now that's 1, 2, 3 rows done, 4 more rows like this, so a decrease in the beginning, single crochets, and a decrease at the end. A decrease in the beginning, single crochets, a decrease in the beginning, and a decrease at the end. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I'm already at the last row. So a decrease in the beginning, single crochets, and a decrease at the end. Chain 1, and I can cut the yarn. So this is part of the letter Q done. All I need now is this bottom part here, so that's part number 4. So I have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches that are empty. I'm gonna go into the 6th one and I'm gonna do a decrease. So First I'm gonna do a slip stitch, chain 1 through the first loop of the first stitch and through both loops of the second stitch. It is a bit tighter, but it has to be a decrease. Oof, that was hard. So now let's just do a decrease. I'm actually not even gonna bother with this loose end. Now I need to do 4 single crochets. And an increase stitch. Now the next row is just 6 single crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the next row is a decrease. And 4 single crochets. Chain 1 and I can cut the yarn. As you can see, the first letter Q is done. So now what I have to do is I have to make another one, because I'm then gonna join these two letters Q together, and I'm actually gonna join it with still of this orange yarn that I have left over from all the other letters. So I better begin with the second Q. I can put it here aside, so it won't bother me too much. And let's begin with the next one with a chain of 12. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Chain 1, an increase, 3 rows of increases in the beginning and at the end. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, 14 are an increase stitch. I don't know if you remember from one of the letters I was doing, I spilled my tea all over my desk, so currently I have my drink on another desk and I'm gonna just take a short break because it's hard. Okay, I'm back, all refreshed. So I need 2 more rows of increases on the left and on the right side. Now the 6 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Chain 1, single crochets till the end, and then an increase. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now single crochets till the end, and the last stitch is gonna be an increase. Now that's an increase. Now I'm gonna begin with an increase and stop, and actually with a decrease, and that will be twice. So in this row, first an increase, then a decrease, and in the next row, first a decrease and then an increase. And I'm at the same point where I said already with the first letter Q that I need to sort out my nails. Now the first is a decrease, and then an increase at the end. And the last one is an increase. So that means 2 single crochets in the same stitch. Now the next row is just single crochets from start to finish. Now the next row is an increase in the beginning, 7 single crochets, and a decrease. And that's me sneezing. Oh. Sorry about that, but now I'm gonna continue. So now I need a row of increases in the beginning and increases at the end. And the last stitch is an increase. Now the next row is gonna be 11 single crochets and an increase. So that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and the 12th one is actually 12, 13 because it's an increase. Next row, an increase, 2 single crochets and a decrease. And a decrease. The next row is a decrease and 3 single crochets. Chain 1 and part 1 is done. What I'm now actually gonna do, I'm gonna go down here to part number 4. I just want to get this little piece over with, to be honest. So it's slip stitch, chain 1 and a decrease, three single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and the last stitch is an increase. Now the next one is just 6 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the next one is a decrease, and 4 single crochets. Chain 1 and cut the yarn. Now I need to continue with part 2. So I go into the first stitch or the last stitch, whatever you want to call it, and do 8 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, and I need 11 rows like this, so 11 rows of just 8 single crochets. Two rows done. I'm on row number 3 now. Row number 4. Row number 5. Six, 7. I'm slowly getting with the yarn till the end. Now that's row number 8. Nine, 10 and 11. And now I need just one more row. There is gonna be an increase in the beginning and a decrease at the end. One, two, three, four, five, six, 7, and this is now a decrease. Chain 1 and I can cut the yarn. I'm actually not gonna use this small bit of yarn because hopefully there won't be any knots. Now I'm moving up to part number 3. And part number 3 is done in the 10th stitch from the end. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In the 10th stitch, I go in, slip stitch, chain 1, and a decrease. So that's a decrease, and now I need 8 more single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now the next one is an increase at the beginning, 6 single crochets and a decrease. And the next stitch is a decrease in the beginning and 7 single crochets. Now I need 11 rows of just 8 single crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so I can definitely say the yarn didn't go twice around the leg of a chair. I think I'm on number 10 now. And the last one, 11. Now the next row is gonna be increase, 5 single crochets and a decrease. Now the next one is gonna be 7 single crochets, an increase, and the chains to join part 2 with part 3. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, an increase. Now chain 8, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, and join it with part 2, where the first stitch is actually gonna be an increase. So that's 1, 2, and 7 single crochets. Chain 1. Now I'm here at the top part where I need to do decreases in the beginning and at the end. Through the front loop, through both loops, and a decrease. Now single crochets, and the last stitch is gonna be a decrease again. And I need 7 rows of it. And the last stitch is a decrease. Now row number 1 out of 7 like this is done, so 6 more to go. And the video is already over an hour long. Now I think you know why I have been deliberately forgetting or procrastinating while doing this letter. And I do apologize. But now the alphabet should be really complete. And the last stitch is a decrease. A decrease. And then single crochets. A decrease. And another decrease. And the rows are getting shorter, and the rows are being done much faster, even though it's just 2 less stitches in a row. It does make a time difference, to be honest. And another decrease. And single crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, row number 5 out of 7. When I finish this row, I need to do 2 more rows. One, two, three, four, five, 6. I'm at the last row. Even though I sometimes forget that I do a chain 1 when going into the next row, I always do a chain 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the last stitch is a decrease. Through both, and that's it. So now that I have the two queues, it's time to join them. What I'm first gonna do is I first have to join the inner parts. So I'm gonna put one on top of each other, and to be honest, it doesn't actually matter where you begin. So I'm gonna begin here on the bottom in the third stitch before the tooth, and you can go either that way or no, actually it's not. Always have it face up while joining those two letters. So I'm gonna use a bit of a contrasting yarn, and it is a bit thinner, but I'm still gonna use the same crochet hook, and let's see how it will come out. So slip stitch, chain one, and a single crochet. The thing for joining is always the same. Whenever I have an inner corner, I do a slip stitch, like here, and wherever I have an outer corner, I'm gonna show you an outer corner in a second, just when I'll put this through. So the inner corners are here, here, here. The outer corners are these corners on the outer side. So now all I have to do is single crochet first on the inner side, and then single crochet the letters on the outer side, and that's how I'm gonna get the puffy look of the crocheted letter. Always align and perhaps stretch a bit the two letters, because you're gonna much easier see the holes where you have to go through with your hook. So stretch it, put it in place, and then everything should work just fine. Always keep in mind you have to go through both letters. Now here in this corner I'm gonna do another slip stitch. I'm gonna worry about the loose ends at the end. Now here's gonna be a slip stitch, and now doing single crochets again. always go through both letters. Stretch it, align it. You see what I've done here? I missed a stitch, so I have to undo it here. Okay, so if you have any safety pins or things that you can put through, I actually have one marker, so I'm gonna just mark here that these two have to come through like this, and hopefully they will stay in place. Okay, well, it happens. Sometimes even I have to undo a few rows. I missed a slip stitch. I missed a stitch here again. Slip stitch, and now single crochets. As I said, stretch it out as much as you need it to, because then it's much easier to find the holes where your crochet hook has to go through. And here is a place for a slip stitch. And now continue on the other side down. Now here it's gonna be actually again time for a slip stitch because it is an inner corner. And then going up the tooth. Now that's an outer corner. I'm gonna do a chain 1 and a single crochet in the same stitch. Again, here I'm in the outer corner. What I also have to do is get those two loose ends in and hide them. On this stitch I'm actually gonna do chain 2 and a single crochet in the same stitch just to turn the corner. And now actually I missed a stitch there. This is the next row and this is the next one. Again, I have to hide the end tail of the base in. Now another stitch. Now the next one is gonna be a slip stitch because it's another sharp corner. And now I can do single crochets till the end or the beginning. So this is the last one. I'm gonna cut the yarn, pull the yarn through and make an invisible join. That's the second one. And go in to from where I started. And I'm gonna go into the middle of the work. And I don't know if you can hear the siren, but here in my country, every first Saturday of the month, they test if the sirens are still working. Just in case of any emergencies or why people should be informed. So you witnessed it. Okay, so I'm just making a knot and that is the inner part of the letter Q done. What I have to do now is make the outer part. So all I have to do now is join the top parts together. So I'm gonna do a slip stitch, chain 1 and a single crochet. Now I'm just gonna be doing single crochets all the way around, except when I'm gonna be in these corner stitches. For example, this is not a true 90-degree corner, so I'm not gonna do even a chain 1 in between. I'm just gonna do 2 single crochets in the same stitch and then continue with joining the 2 letters together. As I always tell you, I should listen to myself more often. Stretch the work so you can then find the holes where your crochet hook will go through much easier. Now in this one I'm actually gonna do just 2 single crochets in the same stitch, because it is just a bit of a corner, not a proper one, but it does just turn a bit. Now I have to go all the way down. I have to go through both of the letters, and so do you if you wanna. Oops, there goes the cable. Yes, I'm charging. The battery died, so I had to plug everything in to get the go-go juice. I'm gonna do one more stitch, and now here I'm gonna do 2 single crochets in the same stitch. It's not like a proper turn, but it is a turn of the corner. Oh, I have this here, so this one is already worked in, so I can just hide it. Nice. I'm just gonna double check if I have all the loose ends anywhere visible. No, this is actually the only one. And I'm also gonna hide this one in just with the crochet hook to lead it to the other side. Now this is kind of a corner stitch, so I'm gonna do 2 single crochets in the same stitch just to turn it a bit around, and now crochet to the other side. Now my letter Q is a bit bigger because I'm using a 3.5mm hook, so I can only now say that I'm gonna fill in this part. I won't need that much, but for just in case. So I'm gonna fill the letter up just because it has a curve there and it's much easier to fill it up while it's opened. I know it's not the best color combination that perhaps I opted in for, but it's the scrap yarn that I have, and I think for this tutorial purposes it's fine. Okay, so part of the letter Q is stuffed. Now I can continue with joining it. Now I'm almost, actually I'm now in the corner piece, so I'm gonna just do 2 single crochets in the same stitch and continue with crocheting. Now here I'm in the inner corner, so I'm gonna do a slip stitch. Actually, I'm gonna do 2 slip stitches because I do want the definition between the letter Q and this tooth that the letter Q has. And now I can continue with single crochets. I'm at the corner stitch. Here I am gonna do a chain 1 and turn the corner. Now again, just joining with single crochets. Now I'm at the corner piece. In this corner I'm again also gonna do a chain 1 and a single crochet in the same stitch just to turn the corner. And now I'm gonna continue with single crochets till the next corner where I'm gonna be doing a slip stitch. Is there a recipe where you should put a slip stitch in or not? I think the best way for you is to just see if you need an additional stitch. If something is pulling, then do another stitch. If you need to do it more tightly in the corner, then just do a slip stitch. Okay, now there's a slip stitch. And a single crochet. And another single crochet. And another one. And I'm actually gonna do here 2 single crochets. One more. And now I'm gonna stuff the bottom of the letter Q up. To be honest, I'm not gonna put any stuffing in those 2 parts because they are firm enough. So I'm just gonna now continue with joining. Again, I'm aligning it so I can see where my crochet hook should go through. Now I'm again here where I'm turning the corner. I'm just gonna do 2 single crochets in the same stitch. And now I'm gonna go up to the top. Of course, aligning the letter. the closer to the end I am, the more the hook is not running as smoothly as I would want it to. Okay, so I'm now here at the corner stitch. I'm just gonna do 2 single crochets in the same stitch. Now I'm gonna finish up with the filling. It has been a long session, to be honest. For me, it's good hour 45 minutes, but the letter Q now is almost done. Just few more stitches, and then the alphabet series is over. I hope you did find something interesting in it, and if you did, you can definitely let me know. If you have any other questions, just ask, don't hesitate. It's nothing wrong with asking. I'm just gonna now finish these last few stitches. I already filled all the filling into the letter that I had to do. If you don't want to, you don't have to use the filling. Also, you can use just one letter and perhaps sew it onto something, or you can use it to, oops, there goes my paper, or you can use it for any other decoration, but I do like the puffy look. That's why I'm putting into my letters the stuffing. So here's the invisible join. With this join that I've done, I just overlapped the first stitch. Now I just want to go into the work somewhere. Actually, I need to do that with the other one as well, because I have no idea where all the rest of my crochet hooks are. They are not on my desk. Okay, so I can now tie a knot. Okay, I've done 3 knots. It's nothing wrong with it. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hide the knot into the work. Cut the yarn and ta-da! Squish it a bit, as you perhaps know it. But here is the letter Q. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the whole series of all the letters. This one is a bit larger, to be honest, because in most letters I've been using, I think it was a 2.5mm hook, so they were much smaller. But again, for your project, you're probably gonna use all the letters in the same yarn thickness, so it's gonna look much prettier. Okay, at this point I'm gonna say thank you. Thank you for sticking up with me. Thank you for joining me with this series. And now I have to go and find out something else, what I want to show you how to crochet. Until the next time, I'm gonna say happy crafting!